The reason why people want to listen to you is because it's you and not somebody else. And you have a specific style, you have a specific message, you have a specific story, you're unique. If you try to copy somebody else's game or the way they do things, it's going to be inauthentic.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Nomadic Mic. Today, I'm joined by somebody who is not alien to our studio or our show. In fact, I met her because of content that I put up online. Yes, absolutely. I'm talking about none other than Divya Butani, TheVeggieWifey. We met online on Instagram after I put out a video about my great-grandmother. And she reached out saying, this is beautiful. And that's when I realized the power of actually putting out content. Since then, our friendship has grown, and I've had the fortune of learning so much more about her story, and her journey, some of which you guys will hear today. She's gone from working in private equity to then working with her dad at his denim company, to then launching her own online company, her own online shop, and then she had to face like some sort of lawsuit in relation to that. She then became an IB economics and business teacher. And from there, after experiencing some calamities, she eventually went on to become the Veggie Wifey. And so on today's episode, we're going to learn about her story, her trials, her tribulations, and also what we can learn about food and what we should be putting in our bodies. So without further ado, Divya Butani, welcome.
Thank you
to the
so
Nomadic
much.
Mic.
Thank you. What a really nice introduction. I really appreciate that. That's so kind of you.
Honestly, there are so many words and so many versions of an introduction that could do you justice. But the thing is, I'd like you to talk to us a little bit about how you see yourself. Because introductions from another person's perspective is one thing, but coming into your own energy, knowing everything that you've been through, while also achieving everything that you have, obviously means something different to you, all right? Because you live in your body. It might be a very deep question, but tell us your initial thoughts about that. How do you feel? I mean, you've just graduated culinary school.
I know. I'm first and foremost a mom. And I think placing that as like my number one, what I am title, it's taken time because even before you have kids, you're like one person. And then after you have kids, you're like, who am I? You go through like an identity crisis. So this whole process, like the last year of going to culinary school, was finally something that I did for myself after finding out who I am, what I love, what I don't love. And I'm still trying to figure that out. So yeah, like number one is I'm a mom. And number two is I am someone just following my passion, my dream. And I don't know where I am headed to, but I am enjoying the journey. And loving every minute of meeting new people and working with different groups of people and doing what I love to do. Yeah. Combining my passion and my skills. It's not easy and it's not something you can find every day. So I'm very lucky to have found that.
You have a very vibrant light in your eyes, which makes me feel like you're a very energetic person. It makes it feel like
not today. I'm like
no, like you even now. And the thing is, you've been through so many different chapters of trying to figure out who it is that you want to be, who you're trying to become, so that you can be a valuable asset to the rest of the world. Maybe that's not how you frame it in your head, or maybe it is. I'm not sure, but what was it like 10 years ago when you were in private equity?
Wow.
Compared to now?
I was lost. I didn't know. I don't think many people know what they want to do when they're 17 years old, right? And so you kind of follow the crowd and you go to university. And I went to the UK, so you had to know your major before you you go and apply. And I just remember not knowing what I wanted to do because there were so many things I wanted to do. I felt at that time I was good at so many things. And I think the idea was, okay, what could get you a job and what could make you have an income? But then I was like contesting that with, well, I don't like everything that kind of makes you a lot of money. I want to wake up every day doing what I love to do. I loved art. And then someone told me, yeah, artists don't make money, like kind of like an Indian mentality thing. So I kind of just one day was watching the news and I saw this Indian lady, an anchor, Anjali Rao. And it was the first time I saw an Indian lady on TV reading the news. And I was like, I want to be that girl. That's so cool. She looks so professional. She's so good at what she does. So I Googled her and I was like, where did she go to university? Okay, like she studied this at City University. And so I applied to go there. And then I got an internship at SCMP and I was like trying to go through that path because I think I just saw somebody that I could potentially be. And then I went to the same university that she did, but I never studied journalism. I studied sociology and media. I think I was told that kind of opens up your prospects if in any case you don't want to go down that path.
Right.
It ended up that after I graduated, I had still no idea what I wanted to do. And then I came back here for an internship just because I was waiting to go to the next step. I applied for my master's. I decided then, okay, maybe I should study more, figure that out, what I wanted to do then. I came back here. My dad's like, what are you going to do for 3 months? Wake up every morning and get a job, make some money while you're waiting. My dad has always been like a go-getter and someone who doesn't let us sit on our butts and do nothing. He's always like, I don't care what you do, just do something. Make yourself useful, contribute, be of service, So I applied and I got into this startup company with the ex-ED of Morgan Stanley. And it was a networking company. And then it turned into a private equity company. We were selling like alternate assets, fine wine funds, and like private property funds. And like all of that was on the job learning. And we were meeting so many people. My first meeting was with the CEO of Asia Pacific of DBS Bank, at that time. And I was 21. I just graduated and it was such a new world.
Yeah.
And it was so fast paced and it was so different from what I had envisioned for myself. And I stayed there for I worked with him for about 2 years until my dad was like, why don't you come and help me with everything that you've learned on how to like run a startup? I was like, okay. So I was heading his business development over there. And then we started our own brand. And that was short-lived because after doing all that research, we got a case, like a lawyer's letter from a company mentioning you're infringing our trademark. And then I kind of had like to go back to work. And I was like, what do I do now? And then I ended up private tutoring for a little while. I loved that. And then I was like, okay, maybe I can do this as a profession.
What were you teaching when you were doing private tutoring in business?
Business and economics.
Okay.
I was putting a lot of my own personal real life experiences into the textbook case studies or the theory that you would find in the textbook.
Cool.
So I became like an asset to the private tutoring company in that sense because I had a lot of real life experience to give to these students and to help them understand the theory a lot more, rather than just simply reading out of a textbook and then not understand. You can't learn business through a textbook.
No.
You can't.
No.
So then after that, super long story.
No. I mean, I set it up like that too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've done a lot in your time.
So after a few years, like I think I did private tutoring for about 1.5 years. I decided, okay, I think I know what I want to do. I want to be of service. I love teaching kids. I love teaching them how to be better, do better, and achieve their best, And I love that moment where when I taught them something new, that aha moment.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
I loved being the facilitator for that.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's how my love for teaching came about, you know, because it's so much more meaningful than just, for me at least, selling something.
Sure.
You know, money is not, it motivates a lot of people. And of course you need it. It's important, but it shouldn't be the only reason why you wake up every day.
It's true.
And you're going to die without it anyway. So might as well make your life fulfilled with something much more meaningful.
Yeah.
So that's what I chose to do. I was like, okay, let me get my PGC. I went about it, got my PGC.
What does a PGC stand for?
It's a postgraduate in education.
Education.
So it's a diploma, and you need that certification in order to teach in school.
Okay.
And that's what I got. And after that, I started teaching at high school, business and economics. Getting through that door, though, is not so easy because specialist subject teachers, they don't leave. They're there for a long time.
They are, yeah.
To find an opening is very difficult. And I was very young. So they kind of looked at me like, you know, 27, 28-year-old teacher. With these high school kids, how is that going to go down? Are they going to even look at you with respect, or, you know? But I got into a few schools in the end. And then I started teaching for almost 7 years. And then including the private tutoring time. But then it was when so this is the interesting part. I was teaching at one school, and then I got pregnant.
Okay. I
lost the baby, and the management knew about it, you know, so it was a very difficult period for me. And that summer I committed to teaching summer school, because you have to announce like you're committed a few months before, so I couldn't back out. And going to those classes during summer school was so difficult because I used to see these like 4 and 5-year-old kids right after I had lost a baby. And they used to leave, and I used to just bawl my eyes out, you know? So it was a very like emotional time. So after summer school, I was like, okay, I'm going to just go online, go to Skyscanner. I'm going to go Hong Kong, choose anywhere. First place I can see come up, book a flight. I don't care where it is. I'm going to go. And that's what I did. And that was the best thing I did because it helped me go through that, get over it, change of scenery, everything. Came back to work. I was okay then. I got pregnant again. I announced my pregnancy to the management, and they were like, sure, you know, we can accommodate you however you wish. I said, I need some flexibility when I come back to work after having a baby. They were like, no problem.
Yeah.
A month passed by. I didn't hear back from them with my new contract. And something in me said, okay, why don't you search online for your job? I have a feeling that my job is not mine anymore. So I searched online, and there it was. My job was being advertised while I was 6 months pregnant. And I went back to work, and I was like, what's going on? You know, like, why is my job being advertised? And they were like, oh, we're sorry, you know, I don't think we can accommodate you coming back with that flexibility that you want.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, like, okay, you're always replaceable, no matter how much you put into your job. So I was left without a job, pregnant, and I went to like find another one. Couldn't. Because I was 8 months pregnant by that time.
Yeah.
Going into job interviews. They're like, why are you here?
No, really?
Yeah. And so after finding something that I love to do, and then that being taken away from me, and I think that piled up with the miscarriage, I felt that sense of like not good enough, you know? And then I was like, okay, let's figure it out after I have my baby, you know? So a few months postpartum, 3 months postpartum, after I had my first child, I hit postpartum depression because I think it all came crashing down on me, all of these feelings that I had not expressed. And then after that, I applied for another job. I got it, and then I got pregnant again. So it's that, okay, you, as a woman, like you constantly have to choose, I feel, between your path of motherhood or your career.
Yeah.
And some people are okay with, you know, going ahead with their career path and leaving their kids for someone else to take care of, especially in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Happens like that. But there was something that's something I couldn't do.
Yeah.
So that's the start of kind of putting the VeggieWifey to the forefront of
knowing
everything.
that you couldn't depend on anybody else.
You can't, yeah. And I was like, I need something that works for me now that I have different sets of priorities in life.
Yeah.
So having said that, it was a passion project for a very long time. I never thought of it as a business. I never thought of it making this full time.
Yeah.
It started when I got married, and me and my husband had no idea how to cook. And I was just documenting and making fun of myself almost. I burnt this. I didn't know how to do this. Who doesn't know how to cook rice? I don't know how to cook rice.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it was only then, after all of that happened, that I was like, let's make this into a business, you know? And so that's kind of how I think that answers your question, or does it? I don't know if that was long-winded or
no. It was perfect. And to be honest, it's put me in the right space because I mean, obviously, just now after that intro and having like this intention for the conversation, hearing that story, like that's a real story. That's you. That's your story.
Yeah.
It's heavy. It's not. Look, I mean, depending on anybody's empathy levels, whoever is listening to this right now, everyone's going to feel that story to a different depth.
Yeah.
Maybe they've been through something similar. I for sure haven't. Right. As well.
Touch wood. I hope you never have to go through it.
But of course, you know, I mean, just like with the miscarriage, you know, and carrying a baby, and going to find a job, but also just having these people tell you that you're set, and then going behind your back and giving that away.
I think that was the biggest setback, because I thought I had, like, after all that time, figured out what I wanted to do, and then that being stripped away, and then your child being stripped away, and like you kind of just feel like, who am I? Like, is it me? Is there something wrong with me?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So there's a lot of self-blame, and if you do not address that, it can snowball into something greater and affect, especially if you start a new chapter, like having another baby, it can really come down on you like a ton of bricks, you know? So that's why I'm a huge advocate for talking about pregnancy loss, or talking about all these things, infertility, these moments that people keep so quiet about. So many women go through that.
Why?
So many men also go through that, like as
partners,
parents. Partners.
Why is there shame? Why is there a stigma of shame attached to this? Why is it that people keep so quiet about it? Is it just because it's a very personal story? But clearly there's so many women that are going through similar
so many
things. So why is it do you feel that people keep quiet about this?
I don't know. When I started talking about it, I had a lot of people who were in support, but also a lot of people that were judging. Like, why are you revealing so much? Why are you talking so much about it? Especially also like the struggles of motherhood as a new mom. A lot of people are like, yeah, but I went through it and I did it with no help. So why are you talking about how hard it is? I think it's that comparison that people don't like. And I think it's also that when women talk about their struggles, they're often judged a lot. I don't know what it is, but it's like it seems like they're complaining. They're labeled as complainers.
Right.
But the truth is, if we don't talk about it, how do we normalize and empathize and support each other?
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And we need that.
Because absolutely.
Mental health is a very important aspect of our life. If you're not okay here, you're not going to be okay here. And you're physically also not going to be doing well. Yeah.
And we can't show up for each other as our best selves, right?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit overwhelmed because as we're talking, I'm also realizing just how much you had to go through all at once. what kind of support system did you have around you at that time to make sure that you were level? I mean, this is out of personal interest for me because I'm just baffled.
Absolutely. I'm like, my husband's so supportive, and my best friend, I had him by my side the whole way through. And I have my family, my mom, my parents, my sisters. I lost a lot of friends because I think I was the first person to go through that amongst my friend group. So I had no one to really talk to about it. And then luckily I had family, but I also am more of an introvert. Like I don't like talking about my feelings too much. So my family was also often guessing, like, how are you feeling? Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, like, if you're not fine, you should say you're not fine. Sometimes you don't want to reveal it to your family because then they go like all in, and they have it like a dinner table discussion.
And they have all this
you don't want that.
Yeah. It's generic.
And you don't want that. So I thought, maybe it's time I saw somebody. So talking to my therapist helped me so much. And I saw someone right after the miscarriage, and I saw someone after I diagnosed myself with postpartum depression.
Okay.
And I just was able to align my thoughts because everything was coming at me at once. And I used to be like crying 1 second and then okay the next. And then like some days I wouldn't want to wake up, and some days I was okay. And it was just very erratic emotions. And I was like, this is not me, you know? And I used to get very triggered by my own babies crying. Like, it used to trigger me so much, you know? So I was like, I need to sort this out. And she was the one that told me, do something for yourself. Like, you've lost yourself, you know, you're giving your all to your family, you're giving your all to everything else. But that's why I decided to go to culinary school.
That's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's just, when did you start culinary school? Just last year?
Last year. So it's very recent. All these things, like, my kids are still very young.
Yeah.
And it's not so easy. Like, it was very difficult because some days you would leave, like I would leave the house and they would be crying. Why aren't you putting me to bed? And you have that guilt.
Mom guilt.
Yeah. And like, how do you justify I'm going to do something for myself while my kids are crying for me? You know, it's an awful feeling.
Yeah. Sounds like, but I mean, you talk about mom guilt a lot on your stories. Like, every time you get on a flight, or anything, like
it's 70% or 60%.
I always see that coming up, mom guilt. And I'm just like, what does she mean? But I guess that's something you only really understand once you're a parent.
Yeah.
You know? Your entire life becomes about them. Right?
Absolutely.
That's what I hear, at least, right? But again, that's like the tug of war that I see at play in your life, because, you know, when a child does get born, technically, life becomes about them. But then what happens to your life? What happens to your dreams, your hopes for your future, you becoming self-actualized? Right? Because your journey really has only just begun. I was late to the game to figure out what I really wanted to do. Would you consider yourself late to the game? I would say, like, I didn't know what I wanted to do for a very, very long time. Yeah. That's why I shuffled around so much. Yeah. I had no clear direction. And I think it's just how it was. There's no one that could have helped me. Yeah. It was more my journey. Yeah. Right? And so now I finally know what I want to do, but I have two human beings depending on me at the same time. And that's the tricky part, right? Knowing that this is what you love to do and you want to make it something big. Yeah. And then also juggling that your kids need you and your time is not your time. It's their time. Right? So that's the struggle. That is a struggle in the present day. Yeah. But, you know, the thing is, everyone has to choose a struggle, right? Some people are prescribed struggles that may not seem to have any sort of positive outcome once they do get past whatever struggle that is. but you opting to choose a life of passion for what it is that you want to do sounds like it's going to pay dividends to your kids.
Yeah, I hope so.
I feel like it's doing that already in ways that none of you might be aware. Because it wasn't until I was in like my younger 20s that I would look back at, let's say, my dad practicing his seminars in the mirror.
Oh, wow.
When I was a kid. Because that's where I kind of picked up, I guess, whatever knack I have for speaking is watching him speak to himself for hours in front of the mirror.
Wow.
So one of the things that he would challenge himself to do is speak on end and just don't stop talking. So he would essentially train his mind to never run out of things to say, right?
Wow.
And create one very long line of logic. So he could go from one topic all the way to the next.
Oh, that's
and then I would
amazing.
see him get up on stage and kind of do his thing, right? And to me, that was very inspiring.
Yeah.
So for you, I don't know what it is that you're doing around your kids apart from taking care of them, but whatever work-related thing that you're doing. I mean, in the future, when your kids watch this interview as well, you know, they'll see that, okay, mom was like this.
I take them to photo shoots. I take them to like work excursions. I take them when I need to go purchase groceries for certain recipes and they see me filming sometimes. I hope so. That's a nice way to put it.
But I mean, apart from, you know, you leading this life of passion for your kids, I think it's particularly what you do, right? In the realm of food, nutrition, right? And this is not a knock on my parents or anything at the time, because wisdom is ever evolving, right?
Yeah.
And in homes as well. And because we have a greater access to information now, everybody can perhaps make better decisions for their family. But your line of research is about putting the right kinds of foods into your body, where to source the right kinds of foods, kitchen appliances, and whether what we have in our kitchens right now are actually good for our health.
Yeah.
How to source the right ingredients, where to find them, what are the specific ingredients you should look out for when reading food labels. All of this sounds like very specific knowledge, and it is, but it should be common knowledge.
Yeah.
Right? And that's part of the mission that you're on.
Yeah.
Is to democratize this information.
Absolutely.
So it's ingested a lot easier.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's a very big topic in itself. Maybe we can start off with how you're teaching your kids. Because I know your kids are still quite young.
They're very young.
Yeah.
And obviously they're going to be going to like birthday parties, school activities and things like that, which they are very much exposed to candy and boxed juices and other items that I do have a personal apprehension for. But I have to also understand that I can't be so negative towards that, because then they're going to have a negative relationship with food. I have to take that comfortable step to teach them. And I'm doing that slowly as they mature. And I'm not going to, you know, come at them with a very, like an iron fist and say, you are not allowed to have this. Because then they're going to go to the other extreme and have it behind my back, which I never want. So I rather them have it in whatever they want in front of me and in moderation, rather than go the opposite direction. So they do know, like when we're grocery shopping, they'll be choosing things and I'll tell them that has too much sugar. And then they'll at the start, they were like, but why? What, you know, what's wrong with that? And I used to explain to them, well, in a very short and like easy to digest way, sugar is bad for your teeth and you're going to lose your teeth if you don't brush your teeth at night. And if you have too much sugar, your teeth are going to become, you're going to lose your teeth basically. It's not the best explanation.
That sounds terrifying.
It's terrifying. But I had to say it in some way, shape or form, because they need to know sugar is not good for you. Or at least excessive sugar is not good for you, right?
You know, this almost, sorry, just to jump in, this almost sounds like an instance where like the fun uncle would come in and be like, yeah, but if you lose your teeth, you'll get money from the tooth fairy. So,
yes, yeah.
So do it. But yeah, you were saying.
I had to think of something on the spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're so young. Like, I'm not going to go into very much detail, but they get it now. They know, like, they pick up something and like, does this have too much sugar, mama? And I'm like, yes, that has a lot of sugar. So
That's
can
adorable.
we choose something else?
Yeah.
You know? So we have a discussion about it. We have an open, honest talk about certain things of why you can and cannot eat this, you know? And I like that approach rather than just hiding things from them or stopping them completely. If they're at school and there's a birthday party and the parents are giving them cupcakes or royal icing sugar cookies, I'm not going to isolate my son or daughter and be like, no, they can't have it, because then that's worse.
Yes.
So moderation is key, I believe.
Okay. On that note, right, because I imagine for a lot of parents with like a child's, what's that word? Not just a child's moods, but like some children are more argumentative than others, right?
I'm facing that at the moment. Defiant is the word.
Defiant, there we go. And some parents may might not be patient. They might have to learn to be patient with their children, right? Which I'm sure you do as well.
Every parent I know has their patience tested and they learn how to be patient. I know, every parent. Yeah.
It makes sense to me why biggest lesson there is to learn in life. It sounds like it tests every aspect of you.
Oh,
so yeah, to build something on the side while that's happening is crazy. That being said, with teaching your kids about how you phrased it, the relationship to food, because the relationship we have to food can evolve or devolve over time.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
As children, we will eat pretty much anything, right? What we like to eat might also be influenced by cartoons. That's like the earliest memory I have of what influenced me to have more candy versus like broccoli, let's say, for example.
That's interesting.
Like Codename Kids Next Door, that was a cartoon on Cartoon Network, right? They would villainize Brussels sprouts, and I was like, cool, not having that. But candy, like, it seemed like the best thing, right? So had a lot of candy, retained my teeth, luckily. Well, I mean, yeah. But the thing is with social media, right? What I'm seeing now is a lot more people are getting into fitness. What follows with fitness is a healthier diet.
Yeah.
Right? So I think a lot of people have the intention of eating well, but maybe they're not, like, it's a conscious decision that you have to make every day to put the right thing into your body.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And enough of those right decisions over the course of a lifetime will ultimately lead to a body that you enjoy living in, right? Because your children are so young, and because we now have this wisdom all around us, how can other parents make better decisions for their kids? And what do you see in other people's kitchens that you would never have in your own?
I don't like to judge. I don't like to judge, because there are some things in my kitchen that obviously may not be 100% good for you. I mean, to each their own. And everyone is trying their best. I believe that, you know. And so I would never like to judge other people, but I am here to just simply say, hey, this is what I found out. And I'm sharing this because I know many people don't know about this. So, you know, it's free information to make everyone live a better life, I guess. And your first question was, before you asked me, what is it in other people's kitchen? What was the previous question?
Oh gosh, the first question was what was I talking about? Like people's relationship with food evolves and devolves over time.
Yeah.
There's so much information out here. People ultimately make a string of decisions in their life about the food that they eat.
Yeah.
How can they make better decisions when we're bombarded with like fast food?
Right. So what is something that I want to tell other people? Like, how do parents make better decisions for their children?
Yes.
We got it in the end.
We got it. Yeah.
I would say read the ingredients. It's like it, and that's subjective, because if you read the back of a packaged food or a drink or whatever, you read the ingredients and it has something that you personally don't agree with or don't like, don't feed it to your kids. It's that simple. Because and many people don't understand the terminology used in ingredient lists or nutrition labels and things like that. Google it, right? And find out more about it. Educate yourself. You don't agree with it, don't give it to your kids. Right? It's that simple. I'm not here to, I'm never going to be that person who places a microphone on my mouth and like projects, don't do this, don't do that, because that's not what I'm here for. Parenting is so hard as it is. And there are some days where you have to give in. You have to give that gummy bear, or you have to give that packaged juice or prepackaged food, or that's not 100% good for them, but you're doing what you need to do through this journey. And as long as moderation, again, is key, So read the ingredients, and if you don't agree with it, don't give it to your kids.
This reminds me of a conversation you and I just had on the way here. We were talking about how you have to place a lot of trust in schools when you send your children there, right? You have to put a lot of trust in other parents in that they're raising their kids in the way that would be good influences for your children to be around, right? And then we talked about how it's actually the value system that the child has that keeps them on course for life. I'm only just realizing that a lot of the things you teach your kids about food early in life then become their own value system for when they make decisions later on in life, right? When it comes to what they put in their bodies.
Absolutely. And that's why body shaming or food shaming people shouldn't be the way forward, because at the end of the day, if your child is pretty young and they're forming their relationship with food and they like certain foods or they don't like certain foods, it should be a nice, comfortable conversation and a discussion that's healthy and not a shameful discussion or a conversation that's slamming them negatively for liking or disliking certain things, right? Because they're learning, we're learning about them. My son is a very, very picky eater, and he just doesn't like anything of color on his plate. And that's a struggle that I face personally, because I know that that's not the best way forward for his development. So I try every day to introduce, would you like to try green peas? Would you like to try this broccoli? Look, and then I call it sai bhaji mussels.
Okay.
Yeah, so sai bhaji is a Sindhi dish. I'm not sure if you've ever eaten it before.
What is
it's made of spinach. It's a spinach and like a mixed vegetable, but mostly spinach concoction. And it's delicious.
It's like for Popeye. It's like what Popeye would eat.
Yeah, it's got all different vegetables in it with spices and herbs, and you eat that with pilau, rice, cauliflower rice, and yogurt, and then I crush the. It's a very Sindhi way of eating it. I crush the popper on top.
Delicious.
Yeah. So he loves that. Thank God. That's the only colorful dish that he will eat, because we've created this kind of story that you will have sai bhaji mussels if you eat.
Amazing.
So every time he eats it, he looks at his mussels and he's like, do I have sai bhaji mussels? I'm like, yeah, you have sai bhaji mussels. I mean, you can do that when they're young. I don't know how long it's going to last for, but.
That's the thing. If he does want to grow muscles, right? For example, I wish someone had showed me the ropes for the gym when I was in high school.
Yeah.
But there's this understanding amongst families that if you work out too early, it'll stunt your growth or something like that. I think when he's ready, if he's got the right food foundations, he should definitely start working out.
How was your relationship with food growing up?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, on the note of spinach, I remember Popeye used to eat spinach, and he was jacked. He had massive muscles. And so I took a liking to spinach pretty early in life.
Because of that?
Because of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for some reason, I was obsessed with chicken growing up. So I remember back in kindergarten, I would be watching like Captain Planet or something on TV.
Oh yeah.
And my mom would be feeding me dal and roti, telling me it was chicken. Right.
Oh, wow.
And I would like mindlessly believe her and just keep watching
and
TV
eating it like
while she would feed me. So for some reason, I think it had something to do with I think cartoons heavily influenced many of my decisions in the way that I generally saw the world early in life, including with food. And you know, with sugar. Oh my gosh, I feel like every time I bring up some food item, I can relate it to some cartoon.
Yeah.
Like in like there was this cartoon called Ed, Ed and Eddie.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, they used to eat jawbreakers all the time, right? And they never sold jawbreakers in Hong Kong until one day I found a jawbreaker at a school fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucked. It wasn't like as good as they made it look on TV, but again, sugar, you know,
we
just
had
tasted
a lot
so
of
good.
sugar growing up. I mean, do you remember eating Lucky Charms for breakfast?
Yep.
Cocoa Pops.
Oh, yeah.
Cocoa
Honey
Pebbles.
Stars.
Honey Stars, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The list goes on.
Pop-Tarts.
Pop-Tarts, yeah.
We had a lot of junk growing up. Touch wood, we're okay now, but I have no idea how.
Yeah, me neither.
We ate so much of that, and now we're like so cautious of what we give our kids.
Yeah. I wonder, because the thing is aging happens to everybody, right? But then people age differently. There are multiple factors that influence how you age, like your genetics. But by and large, it's how you maintain yourself with exercise and what you put in your body, right?
Absolutely.
I'm not sure if I can draw a comparison just yet to, let's say, our parents' generation or even our grandparents, but I wonder if they had more vitality and strength further into their life because of the organic sources of food that they were having and generally the more active lifestyle that they were maybe forced to have. Not forced to have, but that was just like the natural way of life versus now where life is mostly, at least in, you know, well-to-do regions around the world, like it's mostly about comfort. It's mostly about, efficiency. Right, it's about a lot of things.
That's a really interesting topic you mentioned because I thought the same thing until I realized that it's actually in your head.
Okay.
Because you could have two people the same age, practically eating the same thing, but one person is deteriorating faster than the other.
Okay.
And and I see that with my grandparents.
Okay.
Grandmothers specifically, they have two different personalities. Their view on life is so different. One's an optimist and one's a pessimist. And you can imagine which personality would deteriorate faster than the other, right? Yep. And the one that's an optimist, her diet is like she eats everything.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And she's extremely happy. And she's got a very happy-go-lucky nature. And touch wood, like she's doing touch wood great. While the other one, used to cook like for everyone. She used to love cooking and nourishing people, but her attitude is just very different, and therefore she's not doing as well as someone else her age. You know, so. And I see that often, right? So that's when I come to think now, as I've observed that your food is only one aspect of it all.
Yeah.
It's also, physical activity, but a huge part of it is your mental state of mind.
Yeah, it's true. I have come to become very empathetic about, towards pessimists.
Right.
Because... when your outlook on life is rooted in pessimism, it's very difficult to climb out.
Oh, yeah.
Not impossible, but difficult. You know?
It's your experiences that make you that way.
It's your experiences that make you that way. And it's that attitude that colors the rest of your experiences, which then creates a cycle where,
agree.
like it just blocks out the sun. It eclipses the sun, right? And you can't see the light anymore.
Yeah.
But people that are optimists, that show up as the light in your life to show you that it's possible, they can only be around for so long until their light also starts to dim.
Yeah.
Right?
You think you think that light would dim?
That's where their own light gets tested. Right? Because I'm without mentioning anybody specifically, I've seen this play out in front of me.
Right.
You know, and it's a frustration that I think a lot of people who are pessimists carry.
Right.
They want to be more optimistic, just don't know how. But then you have the other camp of people who are pessimists because they think that's realism.
Yeah.
You know, that they think it's just being realistic in life.
They've fallen way too many times and they're like, stop walking, you will fall down.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
And then you have the blind optimists who, which I would argue is also not a bad thing. It's just falling forward a lot in life, you know.
And they keep getting up and they keep saying, it's okay, brush it off, keep moving. But that's survival. That's how you survive, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to keep brushing it off. You have to keep saying, okay, I'll fail. And one day I'll succeed and I'll make it.
Yeah.
That's my dad. Yeah, he's
your dad?
He's huge optimist. He's gone through so much in his life. And I love his attitude because nothing can break him down, you know. That's where he's that iconic, legendary figure for me, like that attitude. I really like that attitude.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. So if you homeschooled your children, how would you build the foundation of their knowledge? What are the subjects that you feel are missing from traditional school curriculums? And for new parents trying to navigate how to best educate their kids, what are your thoughts on what they should definitely be teaching their children?
That's a very heavy question. See, schools, they are now adapting to what is needed in today's world. Some schools, right? That depends on obviously which school you're sending your child to. Some schools don't have the resources to equip them for leaving school, and some others have the resources needed to give the child everything they need to survive in a world like this that we are in at the moment.
Yeah.
But when you're navigating homeschool, you know, you may not have all the resources and the expertise. And also when you're sending your child to a specific school, you need to be well rehearsed on the subjects that they're exposed to, the people that they're exposed to, the inclusivity that they have. There's so many aspects of it, right? But at the end of the day, being a teacher and coming from that background, especially I'm talking about as the kids grow older, we're just teaching them to pass an exam. And at the end of the day, passing an exam is not going to equip you the best way possible in this world to navigate, you know, how to negotiate, how to conduct a sales pitch, how to survive, how to make money, how to do your taxes, how to, you know, these survival skills. So I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect between life skills and school skills, right? And they need to go together in order for the child to have the best possible, like well-rounded education.
Yeah. A lot of the skills that you just mentioned sound like entrepreneurship skills.
Yeah.
And I've heard both sides of the argument, one for teaching children entrepreneurship early on, but also the other side, which is against the idea because they don't want children to think capitalistically too early in life for whatever reason. Maybe it's because it'll
alter their
their view on and like on how to approach life. For it being something that you can gain from other people as opposed to giving, right?
Right.
But I'd like to speak more about the positive aspects of entrepreneurship education because I'm a huge proponent for that.
Yeah.
because we had our earliest exposure to entrepreneurship in maybe primary 5, primary 4,
okay.
where we all had to kind of build our own pizza companies.
Nice.
You know, and then we would make our own pizza.
Right.
The parents would come in, and then we would sell. The name of my company was Lucky Charms.
Oh,
funny enough, right?
That's great.
Yeah, and we sold pizza. We didn't break even, but again, like we learned all these terms very early on.
Yeah.
We had fun baking pizza. We had fun selling pizza, and there's a lot of value that comes from knowing how to do business, and then attaching that to something you genuinely enjoy doing, which is exactly what you're doing right now, right, with the TheVeggieWifey.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Project Blueprint?
I've heard about it.
So it's this entrepreneur, his name is Bryan Johnson. His efforts to extend human life by tracking every minute detail of the human body. He's obviously an entrepreneur that sold his company, and now he's got like all this money, and this is where he's investing his time and effort because he thinks Project Blueprint is the greatest contribution to his greatest contribution to humanity, right? How a person can extend their life, right? Now, extending your life, I get how that's a result of taking care of your body, but he's doing that to a T, you know, like tracking every single detail. I feel like even though your greater vision isn't to extend a human being's life, it's to improve the quality of a person's life by improving what they put in their body and how they approach food. With that being your stance, what's your view on Project Blueprint and what he's trying to do?
It's amazing. I think that having that data or that information is so useful for people to take away and do their own studies with, because it's a multitude of information in different aspects, and different industries can kind of take that and go away with it and do more with it.
That's right.
So it's definitely a great contribution, but it also, like I said, can be done with, you know, people of different ages, people of different genders, people of different ethnicities, and varied, to understand how this affects us as a human race.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he gets a lot of backlash for, you know, trying to extend human life, it being a natural,
but
going against
aren't we
God's
doing
plan.
that all the time? Like by taking supplements, vitamins, avoiding certain foods, going to the doctors. Going to the doctors.
Going to the doctors, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, to
give
heal
me
ailments.
Give me medication to make me feel better.
Yeah.
We're extending life right there.
Exactly.
Right? If you want to take a look at it that way.
This is just preventive.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
This is a preventive approach. Yeah, it's true. I mean, it might seem extreme because he's trying to break the barriers of something that human beings haven't done before, right? But this could pave the way for future technologies that track all of these things much easier, you know, for us to make subtle changes in our lives to, well, I mean, you know, extending life is a byproduct of that, but generally just feeling good in the one body that we've been given.
We only have one chance at it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So why not? Why not make the most of it? And it's not like he's forcing people to take this. It's a contribution to other people, whether or not they do want it, like as per their interest, as they wish.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So information is power.
One thing about his natural diet is he does consume meat, right?
Yeah.
And again, this guy has put in a lot of money into research. He has a team of doctors and scientists around him to advise him on the right decisions to make. Now, with someone who's dedicated his entire life now to extending human life, to optimize the human body, and he's taken the approach of not being vegetarian or vegan. You used to eat meat.
I did.
You did.
Yeah.
But then you made the switch to being vegan.
Yeah.
Right?
Vegetarian.
Vegetarian. Why did you make that switch? And you know, what's it like maneuvering the world being vegetarian? Are your kids vegetarian?
Right.
Are you hoping that they will become vegetarian? Why?
So I was very lucky to have that choice. My parents are vegetarian, and my mom used to cook meat for all of us growing up. she said the same thing. You want to eat, you eat in front of me. Don't go behind my back. So it's your choice, right? And I will do what I can to support your choice to whatever age, I can do that for. And I just so happened to fall into that vegetarian path because of spirituality first. And then it kind of just went overnight, like to something that didn't suit my body anymore. It was that moment where I felt like I needed to become vegetarian because I felt better. And it was my choice, right? And that's what I always reinstate with, my whatever I say, whatever I put out there publicly. I say it's a choice, whether you choose to be a meat eater, a vegetarian, a vegan, a pescatarian, someone with a gluten-free diet, someone with a nut-free diet. It's your choice. You know your body best. And I'm not here to tell you, be vegan, or be vegetarian. That's the best way to go. No, not at all.
Yep.
Because for some people, being vegan doesn't suit their body. Their DNA doesn't absorb that kind of diet the best way it can, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you have to go with whatever suits you best. But make that healthy choice for yourself, right?
Yeah.
So don't go eating processed foods or things that are not really good for you. Eat whatever diet you choose to have in a clean way.
Yeah, I hear you. If you were to give, let's say, like some advice for someone who wants to become more conscious about their food choices, including reading food labels or needing to deal with willpower when faced with the decision between two types of food, right? What are some of the steps that you've taken in your own life to make better decisions for what you put in your own body? And how would you advise somebody else to start making those changes in theirs?
So after I started becoming more conscious of the food labels and the ingredients in a lot of the sauces I used to consume, I realized that they had a lot of ingredients that would raise my blood sugar, give me migraines, affect my hormones, and make me feel lethargic. So as I got more involved into cooking, as you could say my sphere grew, I realized, okay, I can start making things myself. So right now, where I'm at right now, I make a lot of sauces from scratch at home. I make my own bread at home.
Wow.
I make everything from scratch.
Wow.
Because if you can do it and you have the means to do it, fresh is always best, right? Rather than buying something like, it's something so simple, staple thing, bread, right? Who would have thought it's bread? How bad can it be, right?
Yeah.
You can have it in the morning. It's good for you. It has fiber.
Yeah.
No, when you look at the food label of bread in the supermarkets here, they have like 10 ingredients that are not needed in fresh bread. So it can affect you in ways that you don't even know, right? So yeah, those are the actions I'm taking to ensure that I live a better, clean life.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to benefit me long term. I hope it benefits me.
Yeah.
But I'm doing my best to be more conscious of what I ingest, what my family ingests.
That's good.
Yeah.
There's a question that we ask all the Nomadic Mic guests before we wrap up our episodes. And if there's a piece of advice you could give to a younger version of yourself at whatever age that may be, what is that advice? And what is the conversation you're hoping to have with the future version of yourself?
Oh my God, that's so deep. I'm still learning. I have a long, long way to go. But what I would tell my younger self is, I would say, there's so many things I would say. To keep it short, I would be like, stay true to who you are. Don't let anyone sway because you care about their opinions. So when you're younger, you care about what people think of you too often, and that stops you from growing or reaching your full potential. And I used to care a lot about what people thought of me as I was younger. I was bullied a lot growing up. And I was very conscious of my ethnicity, the way I looked, the way I behaved, because I cared so much. And now I'm like, these are my strengths, right?
Yeah.
So I would possibly tell my younger self to stay true to who I am, because that's my superpower. And what I would tell my older self, or what I would want my older self to tell me now.
Yeah, the conversation you're hoping to have with a future version of yourself.
You will get you will get whatever you dreamed of. I hope so.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I did actually have one final question for you, which a whole segment that I forgot to talk about, which is social media. You are doing really well on there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like your story and your what you're trying to communicate comes across seamlessly when you do choose to post, because I know you're quite busy as a mom.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the show was born because of this idea of personal branding.
Yeah.
And people building an online identity around what they love to do and contributing to the world. So for other people, myself included, who are trying to build the foundations of what eventually does become a personal brand.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give around being genuine, trying things out, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and I guess kind of building up the courage to put themselves out there?
That's a nice way to put it. Yeah. It does take a lot of courage to put yourself out there.
It does.
And some people are not okay with being in front of the mic or okay in front of the camera. And you don't have to if you don't like it. So the reason why people want to listen to you is because it's you and not somebody else. And you have a specific style, you have a specific message, you have a specific story. You're unique. And I guess go with that. If you try to copy somebody else's game or the way they do things, it's going to be inauthentic. So it's just finding your authenticity, finding out. Yeah, it's a lot of trial and error too. Sometimes you like something and doesn't do so well, and you're like, but I really liked it. Yeah. But that's okay. You did it because you liked it, and that should also be okay too. That should also give you points and to progress further. So I guess it's more of finding what you like, what you don't like, learning more about yourself, and then putting it out there. And it's okay if you're not comfortable with certain things.
Yeah,
that's fine. You go with that. So that's exactly what I think has worked, I think, for me, because at the beginning I was like, oh, I don't want to, like, people are trending if they dance in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I am not that person, and I'm not a funny person too. Like,
you're so funny. You make me laugh all the time. I've probably laughed.
I don't think I'm funny, so like, I'm not going to stand up in front of the camera and crack a joke about food, because that's not who I am. I love the educational aspect of it. I'm going to talk about food in an educational format.
Yeah.
And I thought when I first did that first reel, I think it was a pomegranate one. It was like a minute and a half of just talking about how to cut a pomegranate.
Okay.
That has about 1.3 million views. That's organically.
Crazy. That's insane.
And I was like, I thought that was the most boring reel, because I did it. I loved it. I was like, how do you cut a pomegranate? I'm going to search this up and I'm going to record it. I'm going to talk about it. And I don't care if it doesn't do well, because I love this content. This is the stuff I want to see. I want to learn about. It ended up doing so well.
That's crazy.
And I was like, oh, because that's something I wanted to see. I wanted to learn about it.
Yeah. You followed your natural curiosity.
Yeah, your instincts, right?
Like, who else is gonna look up cutting a pomegranate and post that? True.
So I mean, and that, that went somewhat viral in whatever realm people think about pomegranates, right? You attract, like you said at the very beginning, you attract what you put out there, right? If you have good intentions, you have a specific message, it will come back to you. And that's exactly what it is. It's an extension. People try to dehumanize social media, saying that it's who I am in front of the camera is different from but it actually should be an extension of you.
Yes. Yes.
You know?
Absolutely.
And people get shy about talking about themselves. You don't have to talk about yourself. I'm a very, very private person. I never post anything about, my family, my kids, whatever. And I love that, because social media should be a place, for me especially, particularly, where I educate people. It's not about my personal life.
Yeah.
It's not for people's consumption. It's about me educating. And that's what people should do. If you're an expert artist, you post about how you're doing your art. If you're an expert podcaster, you talk about how the amazing stories that and you learn about, and you have so much to contribute.
I would say that reel that I just put out, the portfolio one, it's the first reel I've ever put out where I've watched it back and just been like, I am enjoying watching this so much, because this feels like me.
You know? Exactly.
Yeah.
And it should always feel like you.
Yeah. Yeah. And
dancing in front of the camera stuff.
I feel like there's a reality out there where you just went down the food comedy route, and that's who you are.
Yeah.
It's some reality.
Yeah, and then it's super cringe for me and my kids. One day, they're like, Mom, what were you thinking?
Yeah, you're rebranded at some point.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Divya, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you've graced the studio
thank you.
with your presence. You have a warmth to you that, it's amazing, because every guest that comes in here, I like to think that they leave a little bit of themselves with what they've shared.
Oh, that's so nice.
In the walls here, yeah. So this place is becoming like a crucible for stories.
That's exactly what you are hoping to progress to grow this, right? A room full of stories to share that are incredible stories.
Absolutely, yeah. Stories and just learning along the way as well. I'm a different. Obviously, apart from age and general life experience, through this show, I have changed a lot. I've learned a lot about how, despite English being my first language, how much work I have to do.
That's the number one thing. I'm realizing now how much work I need to do. I'm like, whoa, was that even a word?
Exactly, yeah. Why did I say this first and this second? And there's logic. There's so many things in the sphere of communication that you reveal about yourself in front of a camera, and when you watch it back. Yeah, I cringe at my first few videos and episodes.
As long as you're growing,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
You're growing. That's what matters the most.
That's what matters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so
Divya,
much.
Thank you so much.